Welcome to the amazing world of automobiles, where we explore the rich and sometimes quirky history of the machine that changed the world. Cars have got bigger, faster, safer, gone to more places, entered more races and worn more faces as the years have rolled by. In the century that cars have roamed the earth, some remarkable men and remarkable machines have written their names into history. Since the first primitive cars first rolled out of sheds, the first question almost everyone has asked is, how fast can it go? And enthusiastic drivers have been keen to find out ever since. All manners of answering the question have evolved, but sheer straight-line speed was perhaps the earliest measure. Speed is the time it takes to get from one place to another, and men and women put their all into going faster than anyone else. Faster and faster. As speeds rose, first beaches and then dry salt lakes have become the only place where really high speeds can be run safely. The world land speed record crept up as the races became more like grounded aircraft than regular cars. Science replaced art as engineers built what worked and daredevils drove them faster and faster. Lessons learned about safety, reliability and engineering filtered down into cars for more modest people, and those cars became faster and faster. These modern machines became safer, quieter, more comfortable, more reliable, and they became status symbols, tangible measures of wealth, influence, power and machismo. But mostly, they became faster and faster. BMW has always produced well-engineered, technically advanced cars, and the easiest way to prove it was to go racing, to outperform, outlast and plain outspeed all the competitors, so customers would know what they were buying into. Often the cars would look like modified road cars, and sometimes that's just what they were. Other times they were thinly disguised race-bred specials, and sometimes the demand for those was so high that manufacturers were obliged to build road-going replicas of their racers. Not always so easy. Out of this was born the BMW M division. M for motorsport, the place where faster, higher performance specials were crafted for customers willing to pay a little more. In 1979, BMW Motorsport devised a one-make championship using racing-modified M1s. The series was created to aid BMW in building enough M1s to enter the World Championship for makes. The new series, known as the Pro Car BMW M1 Championship, served as a support series for Formula One and included many current Formula One drivers in identical cars. The fabulous M1 was to be built for BMW by Lamborghini, but all 456 M1s were eventually built by BMW themselves between 1978 and 1981, of which 56 were designated racing cars and the remainder were available for sale as road cars. It's the only BMW to be mid-engined, having its engine behind the cabin. From the same stable came the M3, in essence a modified 3 Series sedan with giant-killing performance. BMW's M cars get their performance from a massaged engine, sporty suspension and cosmetic body dress-up parts that turn an ordinary car into something extraordinary. The original 1986 M3 was developed for racing homologation at first. 5,000 cars were to be built for the car to compete in the World Touring Car Championship, which it duly won. Eventually, 18,000 M3s would be built. BMW released the 3 Series just after the 1973 oil crisis. The new car appealed to people wanting prestige and economy, and the 3 nearly doubled BMW's worldwide sales figures in 3 years. 4-door sedan, 2-door coupe, convertible, station wagon, and even all-wheel drive versions of the 3 have been built over the years, with engines between 1500cc and 3.5 litres. It really was the car which put European sporting cars within reach of many more drivers around the world. Just as previous generation 3 Series models had high-performance versions, so did the 5th generation. And just as the previous M3 generations all introduced a completely new engine, so the 4th generation M3 did the same. A naturally aspirated, high-revving 4-litre V8 replaced the earlier 6-cylinder engines. The new engines rev higher and make 22% more power than their predecessors. The engine weighs 15 kilos less than the previous 6-cylinder. A 6-speed manual transmission is standard. The M3 Coupe also features a roof made of super light carbon fibre. The M3 has a top speed limited to 250 kilometers an hour. Without the limiter, it would reach over 300. And then there's the M5. First introduced at the Amsterdam Motor Show in 1984, the first incarnation of the larger M5 was hand-built from a regular 5 Series sedan, using a modified BMW M1 engine, making it the fastest production saloon in the world. Subsequently, versions of the M5 have been made from various 5 Series generations since then. The M5 is one of the best-known sporting sedans, despite competition from many other performance car makers over the years. With a total production of 2,191, the very first M5 remains amongst the rarest regular production BMW M cars ever built. Early M5s had tuned 6-cylinder engines. A 400 horsepower V8 came along in 1998, but in 2005 BMW built a 5-litre V10 engine that makes 500 horsepower. Right from the start, the M5s were very fast. 246 kilometers an hour for the first models, steadily rising to a restricted 250, with over 310 kilometers an hour available without a limiter. The M5 features several Formula One inspired engine and transmission controls, including launch control, dynamic stability control, and the option of changing to either a 7-speed automatic or a sequential manual gearbox. The car also features a power button on the steering wheel, which offers access to 3 modes: P400, limiting the engine to 400 horsepower for daily driving; P500 unleashes the full 500 horsepower, and P500S for full power and sharper throttle response. P400 is the default startup mode. Both M3s and M5s have been raced with distinction all over the world. BMW's arch-rival Mercedes-Benz has a very much longer history in building sporting motorcars, and their racers were, and still are, known as Silver Arrows. The story goes that the origin of the Silver Arrows was accidental. In 1934, the international governing body of motorsport prescribed a maximum weight limit of 750 kilograms for Grand Prix cars. It said that when the new Mercedes-Benz W25 was weighed, it was 1 kilogram too heavy. Racing manager Alfred Neubauer and his driver Manfred von Brautich both later claimed that they had the idea of scraping all the paint from the aluminium bodywork to make the weight limit. According to the legend, after von Brautich won the race, the nickname Silver Arrows was born, though sadly research suggests that this romantic story isn't entirely correct. A legend that is entirely true is the epic effort of British racing driver Stirling Moss and his co-driver, motoring writer Dennis Jenkinson. Driving a Mercedes 300 SLR, they drove the 1,000 miles of the 1955 Mille Miglia in just over 10 hours. The Mille Miglia was started in 1927 by a group of sporting aristocrats because Brescia had lost the Italian Grand Prix to Monza, and the event was run over a figure-of-8 route to Rome and back over 1,000 Roman miles on public roads, through Italian villages and towns, over mountains and through farmland. Like BMW, Mercedes makes its money selling road cars, and just a small percentage of them are high-performance supercars for wealthy enthusiasts. These are the customers who want luxury, convenience, safety, exclusivity, and superb handling, braking, and speed too, and are able to pay a premium for it. That's not too much to ask, is it? The Mercedes equivalent of BMW's M division is AMG, originally a small specialist tuning and customizing business, since bought out entirely by the company whose products it flattered and improved. As if an AMG-enhanced car isn't exclusive and powerful enough, the Black Series takes things to an even higher level. Mercedes engineers were able to wring out an extra 57 horsepower from the car's twin-turbo 6-litre V12, bringing total output to a monstrous 661 horsepower. The SL also went on a hefty diet to become the SL65 AMG Black Series. Through the extensive use of carbon fibre in the car's bodywork and a new fixed roof, the SL shed 260 kilograms. To balance the engine's performance, the SL Black Series also gets adjustable suspension, a wider track, larger brakes, a deployable rear spoiler, and a lower bonnet. Inside the SL Black Series, the car features carbon fibre shell racing seats, a flat-bottom steering wheel, and all manner of electronic driver aids. Top speed is around 320 kilometers an hour, more than enough for most. But one of the most valuable Mercedes sports cars has no carbon fibre and no electronic driver aids. It's the 300 SL Gullwing, so called because of its characteristic top-hinged doors. Built from 1955 to 57, only 1,400 were ever made and were the first cars to use fuel injection. But the classical Gullwing provided the inspiration for a modern reincarnation. The SLS AMG is designed to be a modern Gullwing revival. The car has a long bonnet, the passenger compartment is close to the rear axle, and the rear of the car is short. The SLS also has Gullwing doors that swing open upwards on gas struts, much like its predecessor.
In 2005, we had already worked out a completely new strategy here at AMG. The highlight of this strategy was absolutely clear for us. We wanted to build our own car. Our aim with the SLS AMG was obvious. It had to be an uncompromising supersports car with the development expertise and complete history of AMG Motorsport rolled into one. The fact that Mercedes-Benz has entrusted us with the biggest icon of the brand is proof of the faith that Daimler has in AMG. And we did not only want to live up to the legend, we wanted more than that. We wanted to create our own legend.
Not quite as powerful as the SL63, the SLS AMG will be made in at least 4 different versions. The first to launch is the coupe with Gullwing doors. In 2009, a Desert Gold version debuted at the Dubai International Auto Show. For 2011, Mercedes will also be releasing a convertible roadster with conventional doors and a soft top, an electric-powered version, and there will be a Black Series, which will see its weight being reduced by as much as 300 kilograms. On the road, the car's rear wing is deployed when it reaches 120 and automatically retracts at 80. It's designed to cut aerodynamic lift above the rear wheels. More spoilers at the front, around each wheel, and underfloor panelling all work to keep the car glued to the road, no matter what the speed. To make the car as slippery as possible and to reduce wind noise, there are no water-catching strips, and window seals are completely flat. There is one name which stands head and shoulders above all others in the rarefied world of supercars: Ferrari. While the Germans use science to go fast, the Italian maker has turned high-performance motoring into an art form. With a mix of old-fashioned craftsmanship, stylish Italian attention to detail, and brilliant engineering, Ferrari's cars are a status symbol not only of wealth and power, but also a beacon of la dolce vita, the good life. Going back years, road-going Ferraris looked fast standing still, yet the company's builder, Enzo Ferrari, always regarded the building and selling of road cars as merely a way of financing his racing team. And Ferrari is the only manufacturer to have competed in Formula One since the championship started in 1950. He once famously said that he sells only his magnificent engines. The rest of the road car is given away free. Just a few early Ferrari models offered 4 seats, though the 2 in the back were really very, very small, like this Daytona, built at the end of the 1960s, but still with a top speed of over 280 kilometers an hour. And then there are the modern cars, breathtakingly beautiful and eye-wateringly fast. Being a so-called Gran Turismo, the 599 GTB Fiorano is a latter-day descendant of the mighty Daytona, named after Ferrari's own test track and the 599cc V12 engine. It was the most powerful series production Ferrari road car at the time. The company claimed a top speed in excess of 332 kilometers an hour, 0 to 100 acceleration in just 3.7 seconds, and 0 to 200 in 10.3, less time than it takes to read this sentence. And if you want to go really fast, the 599XX is a car designed for track use. The rev limiter is raised to 9,000 RPM, and the engine is rated for 700 horsepower. Ferrari is said to be working on the development of a prototype 599 which will use a kinetic energy recovery system from, you guessed it, Formula One. Closer still to the Daytona is the 612 Scaglietti, named in honor of one of Ferrari's earliest stylists, Giorgetto Scaglietti. The car is Ferrari's latest 4-seater, and unlike the Daytona, it does have at least some legroom for rear-seat passengers. Some of the modern car's styling is drawn from the very special Ferrari that movie director Roberto Rossellini had specially built for his wife, Ingrid Bergman. The 612 is Ferrari's second all-aluminium vehicle. Its base frame is made from extrusions and castings, and the handmade aluminium body is welded on top. The chassis of the 612 also forms the basis of the 599 we've already seen. The 612's body is produced at Ferrari's Scaglietti plant, the former home of the car's namesake coach builder. Then it's taken just down the road to the main Ferrari factory where the V12 engine and the interior are installed. Perhaps because they were built in tiny numbers, old Ferraris, both road and racing cars, have not just kept their value, but have appreciated in value like paintings by the old masters. Rare cars in general, and Ferraris in particular, far outstrip the dry and dusty paperwork of even the most profitable share portfolio. Some cars are considered too valuable to be driven and are hidden away in public or private museum collections. They change hands every few years for increasingly large sums of money, often without having turned a wheel. Yet there are others, very wealthy enthusiasts, who insist their cars were built to be driven and enjoyed, and that hiding them away is a crime. What of the risk of breaking some fragile, handmade part? They will answer simply that what man has made and broken, man can make again. Such cars will outlive their owners, and in time a new generation of custodians will take over the care of these beautiful, snarling relics. Alfa Romeo is another famous Italian car company, one with a long history which, like Ferrari, now belongs to Fiat. Harking back to the cars of the 1930s, the 8C Competizione design study was introduced at the Frankfurt Motor Show in 2003. The lines of the two-seater were meant to echo the 1948 car, which finished third in the 1949 and 1950 Mille Miglia. During 2006, Alfa Romeo announced the production of a limited series of 500 units of the 8C. The production version is very similar to the concept car, with the body shell made of carbon fibre, which is fitted to a steel chassis. The final assembly takes place at the Maserati factory. The 8C's production run was completed by the end of 2008, and production of the convertible 8C Spider began in 2009, with Maserati again in charge of building the cars. Alfa Romeo claims that the 8C Spider's top speed is 290 km per hour, slightly slower than the coupe version. Both 8C models use a modified Maserati 4.7-litre V8 engine, which is assembled by Ferrari. With just 500 versions of each, exclusivity is guaranteed, and collectors were soon paying big money for the handful of cars which came onto the market. A famous Italian car maker with as much, if not more, history than Alfa is Maserati. The 6 Maserati brothers were all involved with motorcars from the beginning of the 20th century and formed a company together in 1914. One of the first Maseratis, driven by Alfieri, won the 1926 Targa Florio. Racing successes continued, even against the giants of German racing, Auto Union and Mercedes. In 1939, a Maserati won the Indianapolis 500, and in 1957 the World Championship, whereafter they focused on road cars. The Gran Turismo is the fastest two-door road car they've ever built. The uprated S version has a 4.7-litre V8 engine and a robotic 6-speed sequential transmission. Seen here on the sun-drenched roads around Cape Town, a Maserati is as at home in Africa as it is in the elegant European capitals. Inside, there are luxurious metal and wood finishes on doors and instrument panels, plus a selection of leather trim colours. Maserati's media system includes a standard navigation display with traffic information, satellite radio reception, Bluetooth wireless mobile phone connectivity, and a cable link for portable media players. As might be expected in a grand touring car, it's built for effortless, high-speed cruising at speeds on the big side of 100 miles an hour, and transports its pampered occupants in comfort. True grand touring is a balance of speed and style, aggression and performance tempered with elegance and luxury. The price of admission may be high, but there are few rivals capable of matching Maserati's grace and pace. Not surprisingly, one such is another Maserati, the Quattroporte or four-door, resurrecting a name first used in 1963. Only in Italian can a simple statement of fact sound like an invitation to dance with the demons of speed. The heavier four-door high-performance sedan does suffer a cut in capability against its two-door cousin. While the coupe will reach 285 kilometers an hour, the four-door will reach only about 270. Several variations of the original four- and two-door models are planned over the coming years. Few car makers have so proud a history of motorsporting competition as Porsche. For a small company producing only expensive, high-performance cars, Porsche have a record every bit as impressive as Ferrari, whom the German company has beaten on many occasions. Besides all manner of track successes in hundreds of classes, Porsche have had cars entered in rallies and even the off-road ultramarathon Paris-Dakar rally. Most Porsche models have their engines in the back, and while this can make the car tricky to drive, in the hands of an expert, the unmistakable cars can be made to perform at very high levels. The original 911 design goes back nearly 40 years, but steady improvements and increases in power have kept the distinctively shaped car current, desirable and fast.
We have 3.8 liters of volume. We have a maximum power of 500 horsepower, and we can deliver 650 Newton meters of torque. In addition, with our sports chrono package, we can ramp up the Newton meters up to 700 in order to accelerate this car in 3.4 seconds from 0 to 100, or in 11.6 seconds from 0 to 200. 11.6 is an interesting figure together with this car because it's also the average consumption that the car delivers when you are in standard traffic. If you keep in mind that the car does a top speed of 312 km per hour, that it delivers 500 horsepower and is able to deal with a consumption of 11.6 liters, I think it's a fantastic package in terms of efficiency and performance.
At Porsche, performance is the bigger half of the equation. While the cabins are well appointed, they aren't particularly big, and backseat passengers had better be small and flexible. The 911 is unashamedly a driver's car. Any passengers are simply along for the ride. And what a ride! Huge slabs of power swat car and driver forward as if the hand of God had compelled it, with handling so surgical that a good driver will place the car within millimeters of where he wants it, corner after corner, and controls so precise that every bump and dip in the road is communicated faithfully through steering wheel and seat. Porsche claim a top speed of 310 kilometers an hour, but are notoriously coy. Some independent testers suggest the all-wheel drive 911 Turbo is good for the double ton, 320 kilometers an hour or 200 miles an hour. The 911 GT3 was introduced in 1999 as a high-performance version of the first water-cooled 911 to continue the quarter-century tradition of low-weight RS models, short for Rennsport in German. The GT3, named after the FIA GT class it was intended for, did not use the engine of the regular production versions, but a naturally aspirated version of the turbocharged racing engine. As with previous RS models, the GT3 was stripped of unnecessary items that added weight. Sound deadening was almost completely removed, as were the rear seats, stereo system, sunroof and air conditioning. If you don't care one bit what other people think and you're serious about going fast, perhaps the RS version might be your preferred road weapon. Thanks to a close ratio 6-speed gearbox, the engine revs more freely, thus enabling the car to sprint to a claimed top speed of 310 kilometers an hour. The GT3 RS is 20 kilos lighter than the GT3. Weight was further saved by fitting an adjustable carbon fibre wing, a plastic engine cover and a lightweight plastic rear window. The weight saving gives the RS model a power-to-weight ratio of 300 brake horsepower per tonne. The body is 44 millimeters wider at the rear than the GT3. A wider track not only improves directional stability but also increases the cornering grip, but increases drag and reduces the car's absolute top speed. Wheels are held on by one single central wheel nut, a sure sign of a racetrack heritage. In addition to the new technology and lightweight parts, the paint scheme and body logos were specially designed just for this car. For the RS version, the limited edition orange paint was specially mixed. For 2010, the new 911 GT3 RS received an additional 35 horsepower, bringing total power output up to 450. Although it looks about the same size and shape, Audi's TT is a very different car. For a start, it carries its engine up front and has permanent all-wheel drive. With its eye-catching looks, it's hard to believe that the first TTs were seen as long ago as 1995, as a styling exercise done in California by Volkswagen. The TT RS was first shown at the 2009 Geneva Motor Show in both coupe and cabrio forms. Historically, all Audi RS models were built at the Quattro factory in Germany, but this is the first RS model to be assembled elsewhere, in Hungary, alongside its lesser Audi TT stablemates. It includes a fixed rear spoiler, optionally retractable, and has a black interior with heated Alcantara leather sport seats. Recaro RS bucket seats are available as an extra cost option. A sport button sharpens the throttle response and deepens the exhaust note, and there's a 3-stage user-selectable electronic stability program and electromagnetic suspension. Audi claim the RS has an electrically limited top speed of 250 km per hour. There's a factory option to de-restrict the engine, taking top speed to 280. The Audi Le Mans Quattro was a concept car developed for the 2003 Frankfurt show. The Le Mans had high-tech features including LED headlamps. The framework of the car was made entirely of aluminium, while the outer skin is carbon fibre and aluminium. Audi decided to produce the Le Mans Quattro as a production car, calling it the R8 after their very successful racing car, which had won the Le Mans 24 Hours 5 times. To produce the R8, 70 workers fit 5,000 unique parts by hand. The factory produces between 8 and 15 cars a day, and then 95 lasers inspect the entire car in 5 seconds to ensure that over 220 measurements are within 0.1 millimeter of the programmed design. As Audi owns Lamborghini, some of the R8 is shared with the Lamborghini Gallardo. The R8 differs in its Germanic exterior and cabin styling, smaller V8 engine, magnetic dampers, and pricing. The R8's 4.2-litre V8 will punch it to 301 km an hour, and it's faster than its Lamborghini kissing cousin. A 5.2-litre V10 model, the R10, is available, both as a fixed-head coupe and as a cabrio, which has extra stiffening and rollover bars. England has long had a history of building sporting cars, and strangely, for a place with so much rain, most early English cars didn't have a roof. Jaguar was founded as the Swallow Sidecar Company by Sir William Lyons in 1922, originally making motorcycle sidecars before switching to passenger cars in 1935. The name was changed to Jaguar after World War II because of the unfavourable implications of the initials SS. Two of the proudest moments in Jaguar's long history in motorsport were winning the Le Mans 24 Hours in 1956 and 57. Jaguar further made its name in the 1950s with a series of elegantly styled sports cars and luxury saloons. The E-Type Jaguar was a radical departure from contemporary design, built between 1961 and 1974. Its good looks, high performance and competitive pricing made the E-Type an icon of 1960s motoring. A great success for Jaguar, over 70,000 E-Types were sold. E-Type was initially designed as a Grand Tourer in two-seater coupe or convertible form. The 2+2 version, with a longer wheelbase, came several years later. Originally it had a 3.8-litre six-cylinder engine, good for 240 kilometres an hour, which was very fast in 1961. Later models had a 4.2-litre six, while in 1971 a 5.3-litre V12 engine was installed. On its release, Enzo Ferrari called it the most beautiful car ever made. The Jaguar XJS is a luxury Grand Tourer and replaced the legendary E-Type in September 1975. Based on the XJ Saloon, it was very different in character from its predecessor. The last XJS was produced in April 1996. Over 115,000 were built during a 21-year production life. Top of the Jaguar family now is the XJ, a spacious four-door saloon with the body of a sports coupe. In standard or long wheelbase form, it's the most aerodynamic Jaguar ever built. In keeping with its technological celebrity status, the all-new XJ was unveiled at the Saatchi Gallery in London, with Jay Leno and Elle Macpherson revealing the new car live on the Jaguar website. The XJ's aluminium body is made using techniques from the aerospace industry, giving faster acceleration, more precise handling, shorter stopping distances and greater fuel efficiency. LED light clusters flow down the rear wings, following the line of the boot opening. Each features 3 dramatic vertical red strips, the claw marks of a cat. The elegant dashboard includes an easy-to-use touchscreen, which can be specified to include dual view, a new technology that allows the driver and front passenger to look at different content at the same time. The driver can be following directions, while the passenger watches TV. Inside, a virtual instrument display replaces the conventional physical instruments and gives the driver much more information, as virtual dials appear real and solid on a high-definition glass screen behind the steering wheel. Over in America, they do things differently. If you want to go fast in the USA, you just get bigger and bigger engines. As they say, there's no replacement for displacement. The Chevrolet Corvette has a proud history of being at the forefront of American muscle cars, although in the past, niceties like handling and steering weren't considered nearly as important as acceleration and top speed. The first Corvette was introduced in 1953. America's first sports car has been produced in 6 generations in convertible, T-top coupe, Targa coupe and hardtop coupe body styles. Since 1953, over 1.5 million Corvettes have been built, and about half of all the Corvettes ever built are still registered in the United States. The ZR1 was announced in December 2007, when General Motors revealed their target of 100 horsepower per litre had been reached by a new engine, an Eaton supercharged 6.2-litre motor producing a confirmed 638 horsepower, with a sticker price of just over $100,000. The engine is the most powerful engine ever to be put into a GM production sports car, and ZR1's top speed is 205 miles an hour. The real magic of the ZR1 is that drivers can forget all of its intimidating performance figures and fancy technology. Despite all the headline numbers, this American muscle car isn't just about power, it's about handling too. But fast cars needn't only be about huge engines and big price tags. Smaller, more nimble cars available to millions of enthusiastic motorists have always been the biggest performance car sellers. The original Volkswagen Golf debuted in 1974, but wasn't a German design. The boxy front-wheel drive hatchback was penned by Italian stylist Giorgetto Giugiaro. The GTI version, launched in Europe in 1976 and the US in '83, virtually created the hot hatch genre overnight, and many other manufacturers since have created special sports models of their regular volume-selling small hatchbacks. The idea was simple. Take a basic economy car and give it a high-performance package at the factory, making it practical and sporty. The Golf has gone through 6 generations, and there's been a GTI in every one of them. But the Golf is no longer a small utilitarian econobox. It's grown wider, longer, more spacious and more opulent. The GTI is still an affordable, high-performance car that can be driven every day. It's good for 240 kilometers an hour, and although there are faster limited edition Golfs, they don't sell in nearly the volume of the original. Although 25 million Golfs have been built in Germany, Mexico, South Africa and China, and although many parts of the Golf are plain to see in the Audi A3, the Seat Toledo, the Skoda Octavia and Volkswagen's own Jetta, Passat and Tiguan, the GTI retains a huge following of loyal fans all around the globe. When it comes to hot hatches, Renault has been building and selling some of Europe's finest for years. The rakish lines of the latest 3-door Megane look better when there's a 250 horsepower turbocharged 2-litre engine under the bonnet. It delivers blistering performance, but it's the chassis that shines brightest on the 250. Renault Sport Megane 250 models get uprated suspension, but there's a higher level car too. The Cup version gets even lower and stiffer springs, thicker anti-roll bars, a limited slip differential and special Michelin Sport tyres. The result is one of the sharpest and most involving hot hatches money can buy. Better still, the standard Brembo brakes serve up stomach-churning stopping power. Where rivals may roar, snap and lunge down the road, the Megane Renault Sport covers ground quickly yet smoothly. The ride quality is cultured and supple, the steering effortless, refined and accurate. With a top speed of 250 kilometers an hour and enough manners to be both an everyday commuter and a weekend warrior, many would wonder why there's a market for supercars. Well, because there are places like this. This is the Nürburgring, the racetrack in the German Eifel Mountains that 3-time world Formula One champion Jackie Stewart dubbed the Green Hell. It's a track with 173 corners, and it was decided that with its limited runoff, hard barriers and thousands of trees, it's too dangerous a place for Formula One racing. Some bring cars like this, the Bentley Continental Supersports. Some call it the Extreme Bentley. Some are world champion drivers, like Derek Bell.
At the front, you'll notice there are larger grills to allow more air into the radiators. As we go around the rear, there's a 2-inch lip spoiler for more downforce. I've raced at the Nürburgring all my career, from Formula 3 cars up to Formula 1 Grand Prix cars.
Bentley, Ettore Bugatti once sneered, built the fastest trucks in the world. He was probably a little annoyed that his delicate blue and very French sports cars were frequently beaten by WO Bentley's thundering giant green and very English racers at Le Mans during the late 1920s. Bugatti had a point. Bentleys were big and they were heavy, and they were certainly very fast. Fast forward 80 years and little, it seems, has changed, except that now Bentley is owned by German Audi, and the Continental Supersports will deliver that staggering performance running on the same E85 ethanol petrol mix that goes into a flex-fuel SUV. The fastest Bentley is also the very first biofuel Bentley, and the Supersports is also 95% recyclable. Not that this happens very often to a Bentley. Most older Bentleys typically end up in museums, not landfills.
You've got to be absolutely perfect around here. Keep the lines absolutely spot on all the way. A little bit of a jump here as we just nip off the ground a bit, land straight, we hope. We were straight. We got the famous Flugplatz. We're going to take this a bit easier. Whoa, off the ground. I said it comes off the ground. Braking very hard. Of course, the old carbon brakes really come into the fore. That's why we need them on this car. To be consistently hard and firm the whole time. Adding our force as we come in here. Down to second. Going to get a good trajectory out of here. You see how the car changes direction. Absolutely fantastic. As we happen to have changed the transmission bias front to rear to 60/40, we get a much better control through the corners. We get the tail starting to move out a little bit, and of course it makes it much better for pointing. The most amazing track in the world, but I'm driving the most extreme Bentley, and it's really very nice feel to it. Got beautiful handling. The car of course is 250 pounds lighter than it was before. Right, get on those brakes, slow it down. This is the most incredible section up here. We're now coming to Breitscheid, very dangerous, fast left-hander. Of course, this is where the better improved handling of this car with the loss of weight, and also, of course, the fact that we've got the better balance between the front and rear transmissions. Remember, this engine's 620 horsepower now. Puts the power down so well, that all-wheel drive.
On real-world roads, Bentley claims the Supersport will keep up with a Ferrari 599. The stability control program has been adjusted. It has a higher intervention threshold if it detects that more than 90% throttle is being used. By 2012, all Bentley engines will be biofuel capable. Big, heavy, fast, and very green. How very English. How very Bentley.
As we go up here, again, the road sort of pops, drops away, a bit of bite there. Up over the top, lower up, dab of the brakes. Those brakes, boy, they do just haul the car up. The way it changes direction. That's the great advantage we've got now with the Supersports, is the way the car changes direction very quickly from one lock, from turning in like this now to that lock there, and it's just dynamic the way it does it. Absolutely superb. Of course, we've got this quick shift gearbox on this, so it allows us to really upshift quickly, somewhat quicker than before. You can tell. Here we are. Drop it down again, go into what I call the mini carousel, go around that, let it go out.
Not only is it Bentley's first flex-fuel car, but it's also the company's most powerful, with a W12 engine producing 621 horsepower and a top speed of 326 kilometers an hour.
Well, what can you say? I mean, that was just the most astonishing couple of laps I've done in years. To drive a car like this, you know, weighing 5,000 pounds, 620 horsepower, it meant incredible handling, and you saw the change of direction. The car flicked from lock to lock. The gear shift was magnificent. The brakes just took me the whole way around at those speeds, 165 miles an hour on the straights. all the way. I mean, absolutely on the limit, and the car was faultless. I mean, it really is an extreme Bentley.